What's up, hello, and welcome back to the G to Gooseberry Inn. It's your boy Andor, and we are here with another Tavern podcast, except I do not have VR, so it'll be fully me in desktop mode. Also, hello, Rojo Son of Dojo, thank you so much for the lurk. We will do our best to have a good stream. Also, hello, Michael, how are you doing? Oh, everyone's here today. And Sanakun is on her way, so right now, as it stands, it is just me. Well, you're almost prepared to go to school. Nice, getting ready in the morning. Thanks for stopping by before you go to school, Michael. I appreciate you taking the time to come by when you're, when you have school and whatnot. Really appreciate that. Oh, we actually want to keep that position. We'll stay right there. Fun with podcasts, and you will go now by. Yeah, thank you so much for stopping by. Have a good day at school. I hope it's Poggly Woggles, as the kids say. Let's see, I don't have much to talk about. Today's topic for the podcast, I believe Sanakun said she wanted to do... Oh, I don't remember the wording we used for it. I want to be careful with it. But we're, like, learning disabilities or developmental disabilities, I believe. But I think specifically it's on autism. Now, I should preface this with I have very little information about this. It's all just information that I myself have gathered over time. So we're just here to like talk about it and see if we can try and understand it more. Similar to the last podcast with Kiwi, where our whole goal was effectively to discuss cosplay from my standpoint where I didn't understand it, so I could gain more information for it. Autism spectrum discussion. Thank you. That's what we decided to call it. Perfect. I like that. That will be the title of this. Sanakun is definitely far more well-versed on this than I am, so she will have a lot more information on it when she does arrive. Let me know when you're on also, Sanakun, because I am in an invite plus world, or an invite world, so I will need to invite you. And same with Teru if she is still planning on joining us. Yes, once again, I do not have much information on this, so you guys shouldn't be able to see the pictures. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, neither of them are on just yet, so we'll give it a bit more. We'll give it a bit more time. Yes, this is something that's interesting because I feel like, in general, most developmental... I don't remember the word we use. Most of these, like, developmental inhibiting disabilities that are out there, I feel like they are incredibly misunderstood. And that's why like discussions like this are important. I feel it's important to see what we can learn about it so we can have a better understanding of it ultimately. So we know how to like help people with it, prepare for it, or understand it from a viewpoint, because that's the big thing that my knowledge on this has helped me with, is it helps me understand those like with autism specifically, because I'm able to understand where they're coming from. Developmental disability is an appropriate term. Thank you so much. Okay, I wasn't sure. Developmental disabilities. Yes, it is important to understand developmental disabilities because it helps us understand and help those with them, but also just understanding them itself is actually very important, I feel. Just because it makes it easier when you are interacting with individuals like that. Like, I'm only going to have anecdotes. I'm going to be honest. I have anecdotes of, like, experiences of individuals that I've been with that have autism, and understanding it makes it easier to interact with them. Not like it's really challenging, but... Once again, please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I don't have much information on it. This is all my anecdotal experience. Sanakun will have a lot more to say when she gets here. But I don't think I have anything else to talk about prior to this. Do you know if Teru is going to be able to get on Sanakun? That would be Moist Swag if she can. Getting a different perspective on it is always very helpful. Not sure what you'll call her. Okay, no worries if she can't. We'll give it some time. Hello, Jay. How are you doing today? Welcome to the stream. A hot debate's going on today. Just kidding. There hopefully won't be any debating. I don't know what I would even debate because of my lack of understanding of the subject. It's like this room. Let me show you how it looks. It looks a little better in this. I'm gonna redo this world though. Crouching if you can't tell. I'm gonna redo this world because as much as I like it, it's very very intensive. It takes a while to like download all the data. Also have this. That looks cool, right? Just kidding. I need to get rid of that. I do have my mirrors. Move some things around a bit. Opened it up a little. Didn't answer. Probably fell asleep. That's totally understandable. We can make this work, Sanakun. See, I didn't add much else. I guess I did some stuff with the roof. I can't jump in this world, and I don't know why. I don't know why. If I like have to turn that on or not. Oh, we got some Z fighting right there. It's actually good to see that, so I can fix that. But like I said, I actually don't think I'll be keeping this world. I think I will be scrapping it to upload a much less resource-intensive one. Or unless I can figure out how to specifically get rid of whatever is causing this world to be so big. It shouldn't be too hard, though, I would imagine. Thing is, I really like this. I really like this picture of old Celez banner for the Discord, or for the YouTube channel specifically. This is the picture that Celez drew that won the YouTube banner contest. I actually quite like it. We have... I know Rojo's here, but I don't think... If you can hear me, Rojo, I wanted to use yours, but I haven't got a chance to reach out to you yet. I'm lazy and I keep forgetting. We have that one that's Soups, and the other person who entered was Rojo. I'd like to put his somewhere in here as well. Yeah, I'm thinking of, for the time being, creating a new world that's not like the inn itself. That's just like the interview room, since that's the big focal point that we're going to be worrying about. We're going to be doing these podcasts. I want to start doing them weekly, even while I don't have VR. I'd like to, if at all possible, make this a regular thing every Thursday night / Friday morning, depending on where you live. Got my little pouch of money there, though. I think I'll keep that. I think I'll keep the shinies that are hanging around. I hope you guys could hear that. I put that in on purpose. Make sure my sound's good, actually. Yeah. Sound is good to go. I took out the question of the day for the podcast just because I think that should be the focal point for like other streams, but for the podcast, I think I'd like the focal point to be the podcast itself. So I got rid of like all of the open-ended stuff since the whole point of it will be dedicated to me speaking to individuals, an individual or individuals anyway. Yes, we are gonna, for the time being, we're gonna put some music on until Sanakun is ready. We're gonna go with the old. Let's do this actually. Good. I haven't tried this before, so I hope this works. All right, we're gonna turn that off because did you guys see on the stream avatars I caught that star? Also, Santa-kun should be arriving here in any moment. At any moment. Then we can go ahead and begin with the actual discussion. Yes, I'm so proud of myself for catching that star. See, I got 5 points. I didn't know what those 5 are supposed to be. I need to look into stream avatars more so I can actually understand what all you can do with it. Because I guess you can... Wait. Sorry, I made a mistake. Okay, we're good. But I guess you can, like, put gear in there and buy it, so we'll see. I'll see if I can add more to it. I sent Santa-kun the invite, so hopefully she will be here within moments. This world is big, so I know it does take a while. Yeah, there she is. Go here. Over here, Santa-kun.
Over where?
Here.
Aha.
There's a couch. You like it?
This world is big.
Yeah,
it
is.
Forever to load.
Yeah, it's way too big. It's like 200 megabytes, I think.
Jesus.
Far too big. Yes, you're free to take a seat on the couch. Take a seat where you're sitting.
Okay.
Sit wherever you'd like.
I'm gonna switch my avatar.
Okay, swag.
Actually, no, I'm gonna keep this one because I just remembered this thing.
Oh yeah, it's got the ADHD ball. Nice, nice, nice.
Wow.
Wow.
Ouch.
That's a very nice couch. That's probably part of the problem why this world is so big, though. Those couches are quite taxing. Yes, Santa-kun.
Did you really catch the star in the chat?
I did. You see the message where it says,
rude.
"And/or Jaded Goose has won 5 from the jump." I was just listening to music, so I was like, why not try and catch the star? Have you ever caught one?
The one time
Oh,
that
no.
I'm like not trying to catch it and you get it.
Yeah. To be fair, I think my, like, stuff happens a little faster, too. Just because of, like, it probably registers for me a little faster.
Yeah.
Like, she, like,
Yeah,
because I have...
has way more lag.
Yeah, because Numa jumped, like, 2 seconds after I typed jump, so...
Yeah. By the way, if you pick up a lot of background noise, let me know so that I can tell the boy to stop.
Okay, cool. Will do. So far, it's fine. Haven't heard anything except you.
Okay, good. Because I think he's watching TikTok.
Perfect.
That's what I hear.
All right, but yes, Santa-kun, how are you today?
I'm good.
Good. I don't really know how to begin this particular subject. Normally, what I like to do is I have questions to ask, but I didn't really have any, like, particular questions to come with. So I'm hoping we can kind of wing it.
Okay.
So if you just, like... Yes, go ahead.
So developmental disabilities. Yeah, I got you. Developmental disabilities are any kind of disorder or syndrome that interferes with your natural development, like as an infant, toddler, just over the course of your life.
Right.
And one of the most well-known ones, which is also the one that I'm most familiar with because it's what I just have the most experience with, is autism spectrum disorder. But developmental disabilities also include like fetal alcohol syndrome or Down syndrome, or just things like that.
That is a question I did think about. What about would Asperger's fall in that as well?
Yeah, so that's they took Asperger's out of the DSM-5 and they changed it. So instead of like having autism and then Asperger's, they have the autism spectrum disorder. Is what in the DSM-5 is the diagnostic manual that like doctors, psychiatrists, therapists, like anybody in the medical field uses for diagnosis.
I see. That's interesting.
For like mental health.
I had a friend once.
So now Asperger's is a outdated term.
I see. Okay, that's interesting because that leads into, I guess, the next.
It's still used because if you say it, people know what you're talking about.
Right, but it's not like used regularly in the medical
people
fields.
Nowadays would say like high functioning autism.
Okay, so.
Or like they're on the autism spectrum. They're high functioning.
So I had a friend that I worked with a few years ago, They actually, I didn't know about that. I do know that this particular individual was very upset whenever people did confuse autism and Asperger's, because I believe they had Asperger's and they had a very good friend who
Yeah,
had
and
autism. Hmm?
there's a lot of stigma around like being called autistic.
Right.
Like Teru isn't here, but I mean I know Teru better than pretty much possibly even herself, but uh and we did talk about like she was open with sharing her experience and with me talking about her experience, but for years she was straight up in denial and would refuse to say that she was autistic
Right.
because there's a huge stigma surrounding it.
Of course. So,
And I feel like having been in like that kind of community with her for years, like I have seen some changes for
right.
sure. Like people have come a long way.
Absolutely. I think there is this fine line, because I had another friend who he actually, like, his work field was working with children with autism. That's what he was dedicated to, and that was his biggest thing. His biggest thing with autism that he brought up is it is widely misunderstood, which I brought up at the start of the podcast. But his biggest issue with it was actually how parents used it with their kids, because a lot of times parents would use it as like almost a crutch for their kids. Like once their children were diagnosed with autism, it was almost like they would refuse to learn how to deal with their child with or autism in general, and then they would kind of just let their kid do whatever they wanted. I have experienced this a few times myself, but I don't know myself what the best way is to deal with that, because there would be kids who they would be having like a very violent outburst and their parents wouldn't be doing anything about it. And I'm not sure if is that the way to deal with it, or is there like he claimed that was not the way to deal with it. He claimed just because someone has autism.
It really would depend on the exact situation, and he definitely would have more insight than like you as like an observer.
Of course.
But like there are so I just did one of my trainings, and it's a de-escalation training.
Right.
Is there a place to draw in this bitch?
Yeah, there are. Oh wait, no, there's not. Actually, I do not have pens. My bad. I've not added pens in here.
Pens would be cool. Okay, so if you picture like a staircase,
right,
and at the bottom of the staircase is where they are calm, and so at the bottom of the staircase, sorry, my cord's getting away. Bottom of the staircase is where the kid is calm.
Okay.
The middle is where you are starting to see what we call like signals, or where a kid might be starting to be triggered. So like maybe they are pacing the room, or they are clenching their fists, or they're muttering under themselves, like under their breath to themselves. So
right.
They're showing signs of beginning to get agitated, but they're not in like full-blown meltdown mode. And then at the top of the staircase is they're just not okay. Like they are not thinking logically, because they're to that point where their brain has shut down. They're lashing out, they're maybe yelling, screaming, throwing things. So at this point some kids become a danger to themselves or others. So there's those 3 like steps.
Okay.
So the methods that we have is when they're calm, that's when you are asking, oh my goodness, that is the words.
Loading.
Help. The help stage.
Okay.
Yeah, bless you. That is the help stage. So like that is where you would you're just basically being attentive of someone's needs. So like if you know that this kid gets easily understimulated, like if they will start causing trouble if they don't have something to do, you're asking, hey, do you want to go for a walk with me? Like, do you want to go walk up and down the hallway and come back? Like you're being attentive to your client's needs at this point. And then, well, for me, because for me it's a job, but the middle one, you might notice like if they start like clenching their fists and like you say that's the prompt stage. And so you can prompt them to ask for what they need. So in a case that I would use a lot would be like, hey, remember, you can ask to take a break if you need to. Because a lot of the time it's just that somebody's getting overwhelmed or that they're doing something that they don't want to do.
Right.
And or you can also prompt what's called an incompatible behavior. So like you can't clench your fists at your sides if you are clapping your hands, right? So like, hey, like clap your hands with me, or hey, here, take a drink of water. Like you can't yell or like be cussing if you're taking a sip of water. So it's something to kind of break that behavior.
I see.
And redirect back to where you can help them. The third level, the strategy that we use is called wait, because sometimes that's just what it comes down to. And what my coworker, his favorite thing for it is named because like you wait, but the way you know that you are at that level is if you are thinking to yourself at any point, why am I talking? Because a lot of kids, once they reach this point, they are not thinking logically. Like logic has gone out the window.
Right.
And you have to wait until they come down, like one behavior at a time even, like before they will be able to hear you and get the help that they need.
And at that phase, this can come in like many different signs, I would presume. So it wouldn't always be like a tantrum. Sometimes it could be something more calm. Okay, I see.
Yeah. Not usually, but yes. So for Teru, for example, if multiple people are getting after her about something, a lot of the time she will just shut down. She goes completely mute.
Right.
Like she cannot talk, and she's described it to me like she physically cannot make herself talk. But then that typically, makes people more upset, like, oh, you're ignoring me. But because she's talked to me about this when she's calm, like my mom and I were able to recognize that now.
I see. Because that is one thing I have heard is that, like, with autism in general, and I don't know if tantrum is, like, the correct term to use. That's probably something better.
Used in the field is meltdown.
Meltdown, I see. Okay.
Because it's not just like I'm not getting my way, so I'm throwing a tantrum. It is something is wrong.
So, okay, that
I can't handle it.
Okay, meltdown I actually like better in general. Tantrum would make more sense for what I was leading into, but meltdown makes more sense in general, because when I was thinking tantrum, because that's one thing I do know is that a good amount of autistic people don't actually do anything like violence, or they don't get loud, they don't get boisterous. That's not like everyone with autism is going to throw a fit.
So,
because I have a friend who she's never thrown a fit, but she's very much on the spectrum.
So different for everyone.
Right, exactly.
And that's another thing with autism is like the spectrum, and like whether they're high functioning or low functioning, everything's going to exhibit itself so differently. There's no like there are some common things, but it's as far as if somebody is going to have a meltdown, I don't think there's any really like generalization that could be made that they don't tend to be loud, because in my field they usually are. Like if somebody's having a meltdown, they are crying and screaming and kicking, and like not necessarily at you, but like laying on the floor kicking their legs like that. But that's just like my experience, but I do know lots of people who also do not ever have that experience. Because
there is a level of people, like most of my friends, this is how they are, right? I have some friends who they more exhibit the behaviors that you're mentioning now that are in your field. I could be wrong with this, but it does sound like we can call those probably more extreme or severe cases if they're in like a type of like facility like that, like with where they would need to be clientele. But like that's the interesting part about autism. It's just why I'm glad they put it on a spectrum in general, because I know plenty of I have plenty of friends, so this is anecdotal, who they're very much on the spectrum, but they don't exhibit normal signs of like what you're mentioning here. It's usually just Like for one particular friend, the big thing she does is she just doesn't understand social cues whatsoever. Like she doesn't know when to stop. Like doing something, she'll go through a meme over and over again because she thinks it's funny, and she doesn't have that point that's just like, maybe I should stop this, and she recognizes that, but she doesn't ever do anything violent.
Yeah. And that, I guess that is another thing. Like where I work, like the kids are there for a reason.
Of course.
And ours is like an after school program type thing, and a big part of it is like learning to be socially appropriate. That's in probably 90% of the kids' goals. If it's not in a kid's goal, I would be surprised. But then there's other things like emotional regulation can also be a part of autism. It's not for everyone.
Right.
I'd say that if there were like a generalization to be made, like the social skills is like the main component of autism. But then there's also like some people have issues with emotional regulation.
Right.
Some people have comorbidities, so like a lot of kids with autism will also have ADHD. Which just like adds to the issues with impulsivity. Or Teru also has a mood disorder, so that adds on to what she already deals with.
I see. Yeah, that was what you said initially. Was my understanding of it is that is like the general consensus of autism. I could be wrong on that, but the social or the inability to gauge social situations as, I don't know how to put that because I don't want to say as normal, because what is normal?
So it's basically called like being socially appropriate.
Okay.
Picking up on social cues.
Yeah, I see.
A lot of people who are autistic who do that are really just masking.
Right. It's more like they don't understand, because I had another friend that I actually work with right now. He will say some things that normally are incredibly hurtful, that like that other individuals would say, it would be something that would be normal, like, wow, that was an incredibly rude thing to say. But this is kind of where I mentioned earlier, it's all about like understanding it, because once I learn that he's on the spectrum, it's easier for me to gauge he's not trying to be rude, he's not trying to be mean. I just don't think he fully grasps like the social appropriateness of the situation. So he felt that was appropriate.
Yeah, and that's part of what we do at my job, is like, say somebody says something and we're like, hey, that's not appropriate, but we don't just tell them it's not appropriate, we explain why.
Okay,
I
see.
Something that does really resonate with people with autism is the explanation behind why. Because you can say that's not appropriate, but they're just like, well, why not? Like, that's where that like misunderstanding comes in. And
I see.
So like explanations of why something is or isn't appropriate. So like a big thing where I work is making eye contact when you're talking to somebody. And none of the kids want to, but they learn to, and they learn to be really good at it. And one of the tricks that we tell them is, you don't have to look into my eyes, you can look at the top of my head, and it's still enough like it that you're not being rude. And then when they're like, well, why do I need to look at your eyes or look at your face? And we tell them, like, it's because it is a sign that you are listening and paying attention to me. When you look at somebody, it is while they're talking to you or while you're talking to them, it tells them that you're paying attention, that you're being involved in the conversation.
Right.
So it's something that we might not really think about, but to them, they're like, oh, that finally makes a lot of sense.
I see. Okay.
Instead of just being told constantly, look at me when I'm talking to you, which a lot of our kids have gone through.
They're just told to do something, but they don't know the why behind it.
Yeah. And so I'd say, like, with the friend who sometimes says hurtful things, like, even just saying, like, hey, just so you know, like, this was not an appropriate thing to say, and this is why. Like, that can be something that's helpful. And I'm assuming he's an adult, which means it may take longer for him to actually like make that a habit,
right?
Of being like stopping and thinking and being like, is this going to be harmful? But it can make a difference.
Yeah, and that's one thing with adults. It's challenging in that sense for me anyway, because I've never thought to approach him on the matter. When I learned of the developmental disability, that I just kind of accepted it, and then I just took it upon myself to not get hurt by it, if that makes sense, because I'd learned.
And that is,
and he, to be fair, he is quite a bit older than me too, so I feel like part of me, like a younger person lecturing someone who's older. That's the other big reason I also haven't. But also, it's just, I guess we all understand, because it's everyone like at work. We all understand he's not doing it on purpose. He's not doing it to be mean.
yeah.
So
but two of my favorite things. Let me see. Two. Come on, two. Two of my favorite things.
There you go.
Your mental illness or your disability do not give you the excuse to be an asshole.
Right.
And that is definitely something that we stress in our workplace. Obviously not in those words to kids,
Of course.
but like they don't give you the excuse to treat other people badly. And granted, this guy probably, if he is older, as you say, then like he probably hasn't had the interventions that the kids that I work with have today.
Right. I would imagine.
Interventions for like help for kids with autism and like families with kids with autism, it's really exploded in like the last decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of older people did not get the help or went undiagnosed. But the other thing, oh gosh, I forgot it.
Oh no.
Oh, okay. So like to us, it's like to someone who is neurotypical, it's not necessarily appropriate to point out that someone said something rude, right?
Right.
Like you kind of gloss over it. It would probably be better. Like I wouldn't know for sure unless like witnessing things, but it would probably be better to point things out and like give someone a reason to stop and think before they speak.
Right.
I mean, like say this person is out somewhere in public and says something rude to someone and they decide to kick his ass for it. Like that, it could potentially put him in danger.
Of course.
Oh, I remembered another thing though. At my work, it is very, very important to not take things personally.
Of course, I would imagine.
Basically bros.
Mm-hmm.
At least those of us that end up sticking around. I think that's a big reason why people do quit and why the field does have a bit of a high turnover rate, is because it's hard to learn not to take things personally. But really, like 99.9% of the time, the person really isn't trying to hurt your feelings in any way. And I've only ever met one client who she really does want to hurt your feelings. And I don't work with her because we don't work well together. But that's just, yeah.
Right. Probably for the there. That's the other part that kind of is part of like what I initially led into this with, is a lot of parents, I feel, with their kids do tend to use this as a crutch. But like you said earlier,
yes,
like the disability can't be used as an excuse to be an asshole. I feel like some people, I haven't personally experienced this. I've only heard about it, but I have heard that some people do use this as basically an opportunity or an excuse to misbehave.
Yes. Oh yes. So we had a client who, like, I can't share any like names and stuff because of HIPAA, but I can share stories as long as there's no identifying
Just
information.
Make up a name.
Ooh, that like sent it flying. That was weird. So this client, he was in high school and his parents were he very much had the attitude, and it was because of like his parents that like, well, I can't help it because I'm autistic.
Right.
Or like, I'll never be able to do this because I'm autistic. And like there very rarely is there actually a limit to something a person can do.
It's
like
more
Carrie
a will versus skill.
is working on getting her driver's license,
Mm-hmm.
And she'll definitely need more driving practice than like than I did, or but she is working on it, and she's taken driving lessons, and she has her permit, so
Right.
like she's working on it. Um, but so the high school that he went to, he would always say like, oh, I have all these girlfriends, and it's girls who like would just kind of like baby him and like coddle him because he
Oh,
was autistic.
right.
And like no.
Yeah.
Kyle, be appropriate. But so I feel sus. Hold on. You better not let anybody see me through this door, boy. No. Grab blanket. Sorry. So they made his school made him homecoming king. And like a big thing, like just he got all this special treatment and stuff because he was autistic.
Ah, okay.
Because I'm not gonna lie to you, he was one of the most irritating people I've ever met. And love the kid, hope he's doing really well, but I couldn't work with him. He was a lot. He could be very, very irritating.
Yeah, sounds like it.
He loved trains, like a lot. Like as a reward for good behaviors and stuff, we would go to a park where you could see the train tracks from the park, and he'd watch the train go by, and he'd like scream and like lose his shit over the train going by. What? Kyle! Shh! The boys decided to be distracting. That was bad. But no, so in the summer we do a summer program that runs during the day.
Right.
And one of the days we'd get free passes to take the front runner. And so we take all of the groups, which this is like 40 plus kids, and take Frontrunner out to Salt Lake to the stop that goes to like Clark Planetarium.
Right.
Is that the gateway, I think?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the gateway.
So he would want to just scream and yell and all this, and we'd be like, no, like we're going to be sitting on the train. You have to sit quietly. Like we can talk, but we have to stay in our seats calmly and like basic appropriate public transportation behavior. And he's like, well, I can't contain myself because I'm autistic. We're like, okay, well, you can't go on the train if you can't contain yourself. And so he did. He learned to sit quietly, like very fidgety, but to be socially appropriate on the train.
Right.
Yeah. But he was definitely a case of, like parents kind of enabling, which it's not the term I was looking for, but the boy said it. But yeah, like enabling those behavior patterns, those thought patterns of like, oh well, I can't do this because I'm autistic. And like the school too, which really blew my mind, because the school just let him get away with so much stuff and like gave him special treatment because he was autistic.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Saru tries really hard not to let anything like that happen to her.
Mm-hmm.
Better turn that down. But yeah, Teru does try hard not to do that. Teru didn't used to order her own food at restaurants.
Right.
And finally, my mom was really sick of it and was like, you can order your own food or you're not eating. And guess who learned to order her own food?
Probably real quick.
And she did. And And now, like, a lot of the time we will still order for her, but it's the fact that she knows she can do it. And like every now and then I'll be like, nope, just tell them what you're getting. Like, you can do it. Or if she's having a bad day, she will say, will you please order for me?
Right. It's more, she still has the option to rely on you guys, but she herself
Yeah.
understands that she is capable of doing it herself.
Yeah.
I think that's the important distinction to make too. I think that's what my friend who he's in this field mentions, is it's because there is that in between of, there are things that that those with autism are just going to have a harder time understanding, or they might not ever get. It's finding that balance between with, you don't have to we don't have to understand how this works. Here's how this works though, and here's why, and then taking the steps to help them find that in between.
Yeah, and it's super important, like, to never underestimate them, because then they're underestimating themselves, and that's
Right.
so shitty. Like, how shitty would it be if, like, your parents were like, oh, well, and or you're never going to be able to do this. Like, or like your teachers. Like, we try not to let people do that to people who are neurotypical. It's no different for people who are autistic. Like, you don't want them to be underestimating themselves.
Right. So it's not fair to them. They have their potential. Because I know earlier I kind of mentioned, I feel like the big thing that universally is across the spectrum in general, the challenge is those what's the socially acceptable portion of it, or the social norms. But I feel like in general, there are just certain social aspects or emotional aspects that are just a little harder, depending on the scale, a little to a lot harder.
Sarcasm is a huge
one. Oh
yeah,
it's just harder for them to understand, and so that's where, like, we as neurotypical people need to come in and just help them, like, find that middle ground. I feel that's what I try to do. Like the one gentleman who I mentioned said the thing that I at first took as rude. I had to come in between, like in the middle with him, and understand, oh, he was trying to be sarcastic. That was probably something someone tried to teach him.
Turn this down.
But he didn't understand it. He didn't understand how sarcasm worked.
Yeah.
But he was still trying, which at the end of the day is admirable.
Yeah.
Like he's trying something he doesn't understand because people have told him it's socially acceptable, but I don't think they really explained to him why.
Yeah. So, and we do a little bit of teaching sarcasm. That's one that is a fine line to walk, because feelings get hurt very easily. Not our own, but like with the kids.
Right.
So it depends on your level of familiarity with the person, and their level of like comprehension with stuff.
Right.
And so there are some, like and like Teru, when Teru finally, like, something just like clicked, and like she was like, oh, it makes sense now. And so once she started starting to actually use sarcasm and it made sense, it was the funniest thing. But because she overused it and it was hilarious.
Right.
But it was also like such like a joyful moment full of like pride for her. Like,
yeah,
she got it.
It's satisfying. That kind of goes back to what you said earlier. Like, it's not impossible for these things to be learned. It is more of a hiccup. Like,
sometimes it can take a very, very long time.
Yeah, like we all have to learn sarcasm at some point. For neurotypical people, it's just a little easier, I think.
And that's another thing, developmental disability. So it doesn't necessarily halt development. It just, things might
just hinders
at a
it.
much slower pace.
Mm.
Yeah. Or they might develop differently.
Right.
Yeah, that's one thing that the terminology really has come a long way. For, I mean, the mental health field in general, but especially for like autism. Like at my work, we use what's called person first language, And so instead of saying autistic people, we'll say people with autism. And so, like, instead of saying she's autistic, she is on the spectrum.
Yeah,
It's just a
I like that.
distinction that's been made.
Right.
Yeah, it's a distinction that's been made. That they are the person first and not their diagnosis.
That's important. I think because that goes back to like the individual who is using it as like a crutch for everything. I think once
Exactly.
I think what happened was around that individual, it's like that it's possible that people were just noting that they were autistic. Even when you mentioned they were like he was popular, he became like the prom queen. That was because people weren't treating him like an individual. They were treating him like autism. They were just saying, "Hey, you are autistic, and this is how we're going to treat you," rather than a person who
like this is the special thing that's special about you, and not like all of the other things.
Right. Yeah, I think that's good. That's a good point to make because I didn't even think about like that type of distinction until you mentioned it. Like that is an important, I think, speech pattern to impose in situations like that.
Yeah. And our words have a huge effect on the way that we think. And I could go into that too, but that's completely, I mean, not completely unrelated, but it would be a long tangent that I don't want to get into.
Yeah. Maybe another stream topic.
Yeah, because I mean, my major is in psychology, which is part of why I know a fair amount about developmental disabilities.
Right.
And then my minor is in anthropology, and one of my favorite classes I've taken with that is linguistic anthropology. And so it's all about language and like the way language affects culture. So that, yeah, like it is connected. But as far as like my background with like developmental disabilities, Teru is my younger sister.
Right.
And my mom knew that something was different from like the time that she was an infant. And I am about 8 years older than Teru.
Mm-hmm.
So, just everything, like watching her grow up. But, and then it was also, my mom is a single mom. And so it was just me, Teru, and then our younger sister is 11 years younger than me and 3 years younger than Teru.
Okay.
And so, yeah, growing up, like I was basically like my sister's second mom, especially once we moved out to Utah.
Right. And
so just really went through all of it. And Teru is definitely a little bit more of an extreme case. She has stayed in a mental hospital before for like a stabilization visit, and then she also was in the Utah State Hospital for 7 months. I just remember it was most of my senior year of high school, and that's all the way out in Provo.
Oh wow,
which is rough.
That is.
Yeah,
It's crazy because I wouldn't have like gathered based on my interactions with Teru.
She used to be crazy, and I can say that because she's my family.
Right.
But yeah, she struggled a lot. Socially, she always struggled in school. When she ended up in the state hospital, that was definitely more because of her mood disorder than from being on the spectrum.
I see.
But yeah, I just she has dealt with depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts since she was a little kid.
Oh wow, yeah, I can't even tell.
As far as being on the spectrum, she went to the place where I currently work for 4 or 5 years in their after school program and sometimes the summer program.
Right.
And so that's actually how I met the people that I work with now.
I see.
And how I ended up applying there is because she went there, and then I decided I wanted to go work there. And then I worked there from 2017 to the very beginning of 2021, and then I hadn't worked there for like this past year, and now I'm starting back there.
Nice. Now you mentioned you're pretty excited about it, so that's awesome.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to see some of my old clients, some of the kids. And a lot of the kids that I worked with have moved on to different companies because the company that I'm going back to, like, they just have not had staff.
Ah, I see.
And some of them since I haven't been working there, because I just talking with my coworker, he caught me up on some of the kids' lives, and some of them have just gone through so much shit over the past year that it's horrible.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's really sad, but from what I hear, most of them are at least doing okay and
That's
getting
good.
back to being in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are quite a few kids who are just doing really well.
That's awesome.
A lot of the kids that I worked with were teenagers. Most specifically because in the summer program I would be a team lead, and so I was in charge of a group of like anywhere from 10 to 15 kids, and we would split the groups by gender and not necessarily age, but like functioning.
Okay.
So like if you have like a 14-year-old who behaves more like an 8-year-old, like he's probably going to be put in the group with the younger boys. But so I usually had like the aged, the higher functioning boys.
Right.
And that is one of my favorite demographics to work with. I just click with them on a good level. Like, I'm fairly nerdy. They all like Pokemon, and like I almost always have something in common with them. The girls I don't usually work with because a lot of the time they're very catty. They're definitely still high school girls. Like, yeah, high school girls. And so like I don't know, I got along a lot better with the boys that we would have as clients. Do you have a drink? I have a drink. You can hear me.
Or hear that chat? Everyone take a drink of water.
Yes. What? What'd you say? Did you hear that, Andor?
I heard him laugh, but that was it.
He asked if that is Ulrich Stormcloak.
Ulfric Stormcloak, Jarl of Windhelm.
I can't see where my table is to put my drink back. There we go. Okay. I got my drink.
Very good.
I heard the boy taking a drink, and it made me want a drink, and I remembered we got fizz earlier.
Nice. Your primordial instincts kicked in. You're like, I should have one of those too.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
one of the other things that I did want to bring up was my coworker and I were just talking the other day about there's been a really big movement to for the like the world needs to like change and adapt to people with autism or like to people with disabilities.
right.
And we were both saying, as like people who have worked with these people for so long, and then my coworker Steven, who has his own issues, just that we kind of disagree. It's not necessarily that he phrases it so much better than I do. But part of what we were talking about is like we don't think that people with autism should necessarily be like just forced either direction.
Right.
Just that there should be more understanding.
That's the exact boat I'm on. That's kind of like where I mentioned that's what I
Yeah.
tried to do. Is I'm more concerned with, I want to understand them, or I want to understand
Mm.
people with autism better, because it makes
Yeah.
it enriches my interactions with them, if that makes sense. It makes
Yeah, and
them
it
better.
expands your worldview and your perspective.
Exactly. But I
Everybody lives life from their own unique lens, and there are people who think that like the world should, just enable like everything. So like
right.
so that you don't have to speak to another person at all when you order food, or to enable it. But there's always going to be somebody who is unhappy or whose needs aren't being met by something like that.
Of course.
And so it would be better to just have that knowledge and know like, oh, maybe this person like isn't capable or just really doesn't want to order this, just as the food ordering as an example.
Right.
Maybe this person just really doesn't want to do this because they're not comfortable with it, and being okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like I think the big point that I've realized, that I have come to, is it's all about coming in between. It's all, or meeting halfway, like a balance between it.
Yeah.
Because I think what like you said earlier about like it's we shouldn't just like learn how to, oh, what did you say? You said we shouldn't just learn to live with people like that, but I think that we should definitely find that middle ground. We should definitely learn to understand them better, but at the same time, it's like that other gentleman who you said just kind of went with it, like he just thought that's how things were because of his crutch, effectively. Yeah. I think we shouldn't let that happen.
And like, as coming from a place of understanding just will improve your interactions with everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, be it like a random stranger that like you have no idea if they're on the spectrum or not.
Yeah, I mean,
having an increased understanding of people and their needs and like their quirks and stuff like that, it goes a long way.
I mean, that goes with like almost anything too. That's a good point. Like, if someone cuts you off when you're driving, it is annoying, it can be grating, and it can be dangerous. But I think the first thing that a lot of people like look to is like, that's a slight against me. Like that's a personal attack on me.
Yeah.
When in all reality, like maybe it is, but it's probably not. Yeah, it's what if they're just having a bad day, or they're in a hurry? What if they're like, what if their wife or their friends in the back ready to give birth and they're trying to get to the hospital? Like, you don't know, but we are immediately, our immediate go-to anytime we feel wronged is, well, they wronged me. When it's just, no, what if it has absolutely nothing to do with you? Just change your perspective on it slightly.
I'm
maybe.
Super curious on if the boy has had any thoughts that he wanted to throw in during all of this.
He's been here the whole time, so
I think he has his headset on though. Yeah, he does. He's playing something. This Call of Duty. I don't know. I don't play COD.
I don't either.
He put his headset on, but so his best friend is also on the spectrum, but he wasn't diagnosed until he was an adult. But the boy has a few friends who are on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so he also has a much more open mind than like I would have guessed when I first met him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just based off of like first impressions. Like, he makes the worst jokes too, but he like the most inappropriate, as in the worst. Like, they're funny, but they're inappropriate.
Right.
And but I also know that he has people that he loves dearly that are on the spectrum.
Right.
And he's very understanding and tolerant, I guess. Like, he's has more patience than he gives himself credit.
That's good. That's a good life skill to have in general. Patience is so important.
Yeah. He says he doesn't have any, but like, he does. He's dating me. It's kind of a requirement.
That's good.
I think that's mostly everything.
Good. Yeah, I
If
think.
you're out of questions.
Yeah, I don't have much. You like answered the ones that came up as we went along. I didn't really prepare. This was all just my preconceived notions of it and my anecdotes, all my personal experiences. There wasn't any research or anything done on my end. This is just stuff I've heard / observed.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for talking about
Research
this.
is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is another thing.
Oh.
That I saw relatively recently. I wasn't super aware of. Like I had heard some things, but not a lot. But as far as charities go, do your research carefully.
Ooh, can we say the one that's not good? Because this actually I do know and I did look into.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't it?
Autism Speaks.
Yes, they are not Cash Money.
I believe is the name of it.
That is it. You're correct.
They're the main ones that use the puzzle piece as the symbol.
Yep.
They do not plan things around people with autism.
Right.
And a big thing that they look for is a cure, which is not.
A cure?
So
oh my
bad.
god, that's not.
Horrible.
Oh, I don't like that.
Like you're not gonna cure my sister. Like fuck off. Yeah, eugenics is scary and horrible.
Yes, I don't like that.
There is a.
Hey, welcome Kiwi. Thank you for the raid.
Scandinavian country that they do. So there's genetics testing that you can do once you get pregnant. You know. And one of the tests can tell you if your child has the markers for Down syndrome.
It's the Kiwi shampoo raid. How you guys doing?
So that test also, though, is not 100%. It's fairly reliable.
I can't cure your autism, Abel.
And so sometimes people will, get this positive indicator that their child will be born with Down syndrome. And then
hello, Kiwi.
their child isn't born with Down syndrome.
How was your stream?
There's a Scandinavian country that when expecting mothers find out that they tested positive for that, they just get an abortion.
That's good. That's really good to hear. You got a lot done.
And
that's actually kind of scary. We're in a heated discussion right now.
This country has pretty much eliminated Down syndrome from their population, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
But there's also, but because this test isn't, 100%, there's also women who are trying to start families that could be needlessly getting an abortion, which is crazy too, because abortions can be risky and can affect your future of childbearing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even.
Eugenics and that kind of line of thinking can be really dangerous and scary.
Yeah, I don't.
Autism Speaks, not the way to go.
Yes, they're definitely not. Yeah, for Kiwis Raiders who just got here, the conversation is that we're talking about is autism and learning disabilities, or what was it?
Developmental disabilities.
Sorry, developmental disabilities is the topic.
Yeah.
What you've missed is I don't know anything about this. It's just anecdotal, personal experience, things other people have told me about. But Sanakun actually has worked in this field, so she's been shedding some light on this particular subject, and we've just been.
I grew up in this field because of Teru.
And we're just trying to better understand it. But yeah, we were actually pretty close to finishing, so you guys came right at time, right at the end. Didn't realize it was a podcast night tonight.
If you have any questions?
That's a good point. I want to let you know that Abel.
Questions, we can answer questions.
That the raid happened when you said that you can't cure autism, and Abel did pop in, and he was immediately like, "And/or cure my autism." Yeah. Yeah, but if you guys do have any questions on autism or anything, or if there's any thing you'd like to add to it, please let us know. The big thing that we talked about earlier is we want to. How do I put that? We want neurotypical people like myself to have a better understanding. This is why I was very open to this idea. So I would like to understand autism more. And I think it's important for neurotypical people to understand it. What if we use genetic engineering to get rid of disorders in the fetus? How do we feel about that method? I don't really know anything about that, so I actually don't have a comment on it.
We definitely have to have a more thorough knowledge of how things work in order to even do that. but also that like borders just dangerously close to eugenics, and
Yeah.
that's not something that I'm comfy with. I know
Yeah.
you don't get into like political things, and eugenics is very much a political thing.
Yeah, I try to
But
avoid that.
yeah, but it's definitely something that the uh community, like people with autism and their like allies, frowns upon. And it's the same kind of thing that you would see in like the deaf community.
Right.
Like, I don't need to be fixed. There's nothing inherently wrong with deaf people. Like, there's nothing.
Hello,
inherently
Atenemy.
wrong
Why
with
is America so bad at Clash Royale? They already lost 2 towers. Stop. But yeah, I don't know. I think what Kiwi says is a good point too. I think it's dangerous because it gives a huge boost to those who are more fortunate. Yeah, I think it would be massively grow the gap between poor and rich. That's a really good point too. There's so much
too, yeah.
Yeah, there's so much with it that just and I'm out of here. Thanks for stopping by, Atenemy. I appreciate that. Have a good one. Have a good night. But yeah, I don't know. That does make it dicey. That's why I don't look into it. I don't really have much of an opinion on it because I don't really feel like there's a right answer with it, if that makes sense. I feel like no matter which way you push.
Growing up with Teru, like, I'm not gonna lie, it was super fucking hard. She was a little hellion. And by the way, I begged my mom for years for a younger sibling. And then I got Teru, and she was like batshit crazy for like the first 10 years of her life.
I'll bet your mom didn't let you forget that.
But I wouldn't have it any other way though. Like, she and I have like a super, and I'm sure you guys have noticed, but we have a super close bond with each other.
Yeah.
We get each other in a way that a lot of other people don't, and like she definitely brings out my inner child, which I greatly appreciate, and I think it's part of the reason why I'm so good at my job. Working with kids with disabilities is because of her. And so, like, thinking, like, if she had been a normal, like a neurotypical sibling, like, how weird would that be?
Yeah, couldn't even imagine it at this point.
Like, I don't usually like go down those kinds of lines of thought anyway, because I'm very much so the kind of person, like, I do not have any regrets. I would not be the person I am today if I hadn't been through the things that I've been through.
Of course.
And so I don't usually like entertain that type of thinking, but to me, it's more of an argument for like, I love my autistic sibling. Like,
right. It's a perfect example of something I mentioned before. Well, several times. I think it's the big thing that we've been basically talking about the whole time. It's all about that coming in between, because obviously there was a lot of growth on her part, but also there's a lot of like compassion and understanding on your part, and that's what it takes to get to where you two are. It's
my whole family went through a lot of different like
seemed like a hellion. I mean, yesterday was not a good
we grew as a family and
example of that.
Teru would have her own part that she had to play, of learning like emotional regulation and being socially appropriate. But as a family, we also grew to have this better understanding of what she was going through. We would role play like arguments that we had over the weekend. Like, it was a good experience to make my family stronger. And like, I'm super close with both of my sisters and my mom.
Yeah, it's one of those, just that willingness to make that effort and take those initiatives can enrich your lives in general, because like we talked about earlier, not only what was I trying to say? Not only is trying to understand this particular subject important, but it does also improve your knowledge of all attempts to understand everything. Exactly. Let's see.
Another layer to your personal lens.
Green Hippogriff, thank you for your first chat, but
honestly, like, it expands.
You have to think about what effects would leak into the mother as well. Women will swap brain cells with their child and have them still even in their 60s or so. Oh, I didn't know that. If you alter the fetus, it could not only make things worse for the child, but also for the mother as well. That's interesting. I didn't realize that, but that's a really good point. Right. I think that definitely makes it a lot easier to develop that. Because that's one thing is, for me, like the understanding of the individual I brought up previously, is I do work in customer service. And I know that's not like a good comparison, customer service like to.
It's an excellent comparison. I've worked in both fields, and it's an excellent comparison. Trust me.
Because I don't want to compare like how people treat you in customer service to how those with autism would react. But like that understanding I had with that individual and the patients just made it easier to interact with other people. I didn't go around assuming like, well, maybe they have autism, but
yeah, but you use a lot of the same skills. I'll say that.
Absolutely, yes, that exactly.
That's what I meant.
It's easier. It was once I was able to understand that one individual who had autism, other people who were most likely also neurotypical, I just implored the same techniques, and it made it easier to interact with them. Being socially appropriate is a struggle. I feel that, Abel. How do you think it is streaming? I'm a degenerate. Actually, I don't think like Sanakun knows how much of a degenerate I really am, because most of my interactions.
You?
Yeah, I'm quite the degenerate, but I have to put on a front when streaming.
Same.
Even on my Discord.
Really. I feel like I speak my mind fairly frequently.
Prove it in Simp Chat. You've got it, Kiwi. I'm not. Well, I guess I wouldn't say I'm a degenerate in that sense. I don't know how else to put that. Like, I can partake in that particular activity, but also at the same time, I'm just. I want you to imagine the special guest in Rustic. All right. I want you to take their most like eccentric parts about them, combine them, double them, and then double them again, and that's me. Sanakun is a great member of the Simp Chat. I know, I saw. Yeah, like when we hang out, like I'll show you. Like that's like when Rustic, the guest, and I all hung out. It was just like a cesspool of.
See, that's how me and Sophie are, though. It's like, and especially my sisters and I, when we're all three of us are together. Oh, I name dropped. Oops.
It's okay, you'll get used to it.
I know, eventually, someday. Okay, why am I freaking
Also, I want to let you know that Kiwi just called you out and said you're a great member of her Simp Chat and her Discord.
I don't speak often, but when I do, I feel like it's gold.
It's loud. It's you don't speak loud. Oh, you don't speak often, but when you do, it's very loud and people hear.
No, it's gold. Like,
it's gold.
quality.
Okay. Eek.
Yeah. No,
when she does,
like
it makes an impact.
Another interesting thing, like having a sibling with autism, like it definitely has an effect on the way you grow up. So for me, it gave me even more responsibility than I already had as the eldest sibling.
Right.
It also gave me some habits, and our youngest sister, she definitely has a lot more of like that influence from Teru.
Right.
Where like she will do things that people are like, are you autistic? And she's like, no, but I have an autistic sister. And
impressionable.
From working with kids for so long, yeah, like when I was still working at Rise, like I would like flap my hands a lot when I was excited about something. Like I would find myself doing like stim things just because I was around it so much. Like you just pick up on it. Or like I'd make some of the noises that my clients would make. I really miss some of my clients, like the ones that aren't there anymore. I'm sad that they won't be there.
At least you'll have opportunity for new friends.
Died.
Oh.
Yeah, that was sad. He wasn't autistic. He had a degenerative brain disease.
Oh.
Where basically he just was like day by day becoming closer and closer to like a toddler and then like an infant. Like he just deteriorating over time. So when he came to us, he was like 18, but he was very much so like a toddler. He'd have petite mal seizures, so he'd just kind of stop what he was doing, and he'd be like basically like spaced out, but he was having a seizure.
I see.
He had to wear a soft helmet because he would fall sometimes. He honestly a lot of the time acted like a puppy dog. He just wanted you to pet his head. And like play with his hair. We were kind of working on potty training, but not really because his disease was degenerative, and so he was eventually just going to forget anyway. But
Right.
we'd still take him to the bathroom as often as possible so that he could try and just go himself.
Of course.
We were working on keeping up communication. He was such a difficult client to have, purely for like the heartbreak of it all. Like, over the course of like 4 or 5 months, I watched his vocabulary get like cut in half.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, he was a super sweet kid, and I figured that he didn't have a lot longer left, but I didn't get to see him anymore because of COVID.
Right.
And then when I came back, he was one that I asked about, and they said he had passed away, which was very sad. But
That is very sad.
like he was just kind of like trapped in his disease, and that's one that he was not like a developmental disorder. He had
Right.
a whole different thing going on. But like, we do get clients like that there's not a lot that can be done, but they still need services. The family still needs help.
Right.
And he was in foster care too.
Oh, wow. That's unfortunate because those.
He didn't have the best foster parent, but she wasn't the worst. She took good care of him.
She tried.
She just wasn't like the most loving person.
I see.
She like had her favorites of like her foster kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's not one that we typically like to work with, but we do have a few foster parents that we work with fairly frequently, and they're usually good ones.
Yeah. He says it's interesting how the brain works. It is. When I was in trauma treatment, it was hard to not pick up on things other patients did. That's interesting. I didn't know you were in trauma treatment. And like, do you have any like examples you wouldn't mind sharing? I do agree with Abel. It is obnoxious how the brain works. Do things, or you'll be incredibly uncomfortable until you do. That does basically sum up social conditioning in general. Yeah, the brain is a fascinating organ. Very, very interesting how it works.
Yeah, I'm actually taking an intro to neuroscience class this semester for school. And I'm not excited about it because neuroscience itself is so... it's going to be a lot of memorization, basically.
Right.
Which is not my favorite. I like stuff that I can do, like, in action. But I'm taking this class because... And it won't count towards my major or minor. But I will be able to take a class next semester called neuropsychopharmacology, and it has to do with like different types of medications and substances and stuff and how they affect the brain. And yeah, I'm really excited for that one.
That does sound exciting. Sounds like a lot of good information there. Kiwi said, "Oh yeah, haha, it was for like 3 months for treatment of my PTSD. I didn't know you had PTSD. As far as examples, 1 sec, it's going to take you a sec to figure out how to word this. Yeah, for sure, take your time. Sorry, go ahead, Sanakin.
While Kiwi words that, yeah. Well, and see, I was gonna say it like while Kiwi's wording that.
Yeah.
We even if somebody is neurotypical, you will see that happening with like when you hang out with certain friends a lot and you pick up on each other's like little words that they say, or like the way that they say things.
That's what I noticed. Like my girlfriend will do.
So,
like if I say funny things that like she really likes, she'll start saying them to her friend groups. And then if you ask her, it's just like, where'd you pick that up from? She doesn't know. And I'm like, you got that for me. Like I was the one who told you that. And she goes, oh yeah, huh? And that's the same that happened with Rustic. That happened with the special guests. Is we did that all the time. We all shared these little jokes.
Yeah.
And what was funny is we would notice whenever other people picked up on it, but we never noticed when we picked up on their stuff. Like there were times where the special guest would be like, or like you're saying this thing, and that's something that I normally say, and I'm like, really? But like he would do the exact same thing for me, but we never noticed it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to notice. Like I feel like that's how you know you're good friends with someone.
Oh yeah, if you pick up on your mannerisms and idioms.
Mine is with the boy. He has a stutter, and it's not like always super prominent. He gets it the most when he's excited about something or
Oh,
he's very nervous. But there are some sounds that I've noticed that he like changes the sound of the letter. So like instead of a soft A, he'll do like a hard A. So like instead of saying about, he might say about. And I've noticed that I've picked up on some of those.
that's interesting.
Or that like I'll start to like hesitate before a word that he sometimes slips over, and I'm like, why am I hesitating? Like
I know how
no
to say
reason
this.
for me to do this. Yeah.
What Kiwi says is, so for example, when I got triggered, you would dig your nails into your arm or your neck. Oh, so that was a huge maladaptive behavior that you had to overcome. That is pretty bad. That's something that like I've heard of people doing that. That can be pretty dangerous. I think it's mostly, I could be wrong, but it's mostly infection that you worry about with that, just because of what can like get under your fingernail. That's like, infection's pretty dangerous on its own. But also just digging your like nails into your skin is not cash money in general. I had no idea you went through that. But was that something you picked up, or something that you developed?
I think she's still typing.
Oh, okay. I see.
I think she's probably still.
Okay, then yeah. Sorry. Yeah, take your time. If that's the case.
That's another thing is like, because I do work with clients that have like come to us for a reason, and sometimes our clients are in foster care. Like I do often also have clients who have past trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That can be really hard too, especially when a client like first opens up to you about what they've been through. And we are mandatory reporters, but if it's something that's already in their case file, we don't have to report it because it's already been dealt with, and it's
Right.
just them sharing their story with us.
Of course, that makes sense.
But yeah, I've had just some of these kids just have gone through so much at such a young age. Like I had a client who tried to kill himself when he was like 7 years old.
Oh wow, that's horrifying.
He's doing pretty well today, but
Good.
just yeah, like he's just they some of them have just been through so much. And that is another reason why I love my job, is just making such a huge impact in these kids' lives.
That is a big difference, because that's one of those like every what normal people would probably consider a little victory is a huge victory, makes a huge impact on someone else's life.
Yeah.
Like literal life-changing things you're doing just by going to work.
One of my favorites is my main client when I was still working there in the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021. I had worked with him for almost the whole time that I was there, so I think I had been working with him for like 2.5, 3 years. And when he started, he had some decent aggression issues, and
Right.
the company I work for does not take a lot of very aggressive clients. Like some aggression issues we can handle, but if they are like majorly aggressive and like frequently a danger to themselves or others, we don't usually take them on. We're not equipped for that kind of stuff.
Of course.
But so when he would have a meltdown, when he would get upset, he would start throwing stuff around the room, and we'd like clear out the room to make sure nobody got hurt from him throwing stuff. He once like flipped a table, probably more than once. Like those like big like lifetime tables, like he flipped that on its side, threw all the markers down from the shelves. And then he went out into the hallway, and there's like this little room that's by the back door that's just like kind of like an entryway thing, but there's a door into the hallway and there's a door into our like activity room. So he went in there, and he was sitting there yelling, screaming, cussing, and he was hitting and kicking the door, the wall, and he kicked a hole into the wall.
Oh.
And then eventually, you know, he calms down. We talk through things. He had a lot of anger issues. And yeah, but twice he had kicked a hole in the wall. And so after the second time, he was told, like, if we can't get this under control, you're not going to be able to do summer program, which most of the kids absolutely adore summer program. It's way during the school year, the after school program, there's a daily lesson, unless it's like a free day or a movie day. And it's like life skills, social skills. Sometimes we do like money skills, stuff like that. Not always the most fun activities.
Right.
But summer program is almost just completely fun. And or just sneakier ways of teaching social skills.
Yeah.
But so we got him set up with a behavior plan, and which a behavior plan is a legal document that staff that work with him must follow. But it's set up to help him. It's basically conditioning. So to help him eliminate the target behaviors, or not the target behaviors. I mean, yeah, they're the negative target behaviors.
Right.
And to encourage the target behaviors that we want to see. And so this kid went from having like negative behaviors almost every shift, at least like once a week, to like very rarely none. Like
wow.
When before COVID happened, he hadn't had a meltdown in I think over a year. And every day he was expected to interact appropriately with his peers, participate in the lesson, and not have any of his like negative like target behaviors. And he's aware of this, like these conditions. And
right.
If he does those things, then he gets a car circled on a sheet of paper that was like for the month had the like just little cars on it, and so one would get circled for each day that he was at program. And then once he had 10 cars, he would get a reward. And so he was allowed to pick from a number of things, but he loved going for rides, like going for a drive. And so we'd go for a drive up the canyon, and I'd let him pick the music. Like he had his own playlist on my Spotify, and we'd just put that on shuffle. And it worked so well for him. Like he grew leaps and bounds. And if he did start to get upset, he was the one where he would always have he'd start to get his fist clenched. His breathing would get really like that kind of thing.
Right.
He'd have like an angry look on his face, and those were like his signs that he's getting very agitated.
I see.
And that he's gonna blow up soon. So he went from escalating like 0 to 60 to I need a break, and would walk out and walk across the hallway so that he could take his break. It was just
good.
And that's part of the reason why I love kids. They make so much progress in such a short amount of time. Their brains are still relatively spongy.
Right.
So they learn super fast.
It's good.
Adults are hard. I don't usually work with adults. Just because it takes a little longer for them to make progress.
And it looks
that instant gratification.
Yeah, I mean, they do find that it is harder to teach adults, especially beyond the age of 25. Kiwi has her response. So the whole thing is, so for example, when I got triggered, I would dig my nails into my arm or neck. So that was a huge maladaptive behavior. I have no clue how to word this. Like, one of the other clients had a big thing about writing down literally everything, and that was her way of coping. And one of her exercises was not to write things down, and it was really hard for her. And it was hard to not pick up that, hey, I have to write this down feeling. Or like, other people in the trauma center had food issues, and you'd have to be cognizant of not letting their issues while eating affect how you thought about food yourself. That does make sense, actually. It sounds weird to say it out loud, but when you're in a place where you're mentally vulnerable, it's difficult not to pick up on other people's maladaptive behaviors. I get what you're saying. Like, oh, that person does this thing to make them feel better. I could do that too. Even though the point of the trauma center was to avoid those behaviors because they were just making your life harder. They weren't actually making you safe. There were always things you could do to bring about the feelings of calm without doing things that that actually don't help you and could possibly hurt you, like your scratching issue. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, because you were trying not to engage in your own maladaptive behavior, you were picking up on these that didn't seem to be maladaptive to you. Like, not necessarily, especially like the writing one, like, oh, maybe I could just write this and then I'm not, scratching myself.
Yeah.
And,
Well, it's also like,
yeah, like you said, like that's not the point of the treatment.
Yeah, it's also like what Kiwi said, where it's just like it seems harmless, but that's like the thing about humans in general is like we are creatures of habit. Like, whatever like mental hazards we may have or not, it is very common for people to replace one bad habit with another. Like a lot, like a good example is people who quit smoking tend to begin overeating. Like that's what I did when I quit smoking. I started eating a lot more to compensate for smoking, and it seems harmless, but like you can definitely eat too much to the point where it's just like this is probably not as bad as smoking cigarettes, but this also isn't positive. Sounds similar to addiction replacement. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much like what my example would. Yeah, like what I just said. So yeah, that's it. That is a good point. It is basically like replacing addictions.
Yeah, when I was working for a different place as a behavioral health place, I was doing peer support.
Right.
And that's basically like sharing your own story and issues with your mental health with others to help them on their path to recovery. So I've never had any issues with substance abuse, but I've had issues with depression and anxiety and PTSD. And but a lot of my coworkers were in recovery from substance abuse. And one of them, she completely just replaced her substance abuse with working out, with like running and going to the gym. But she was like running marathons and stuff, and she was healthy. But my mom and I both noticed that like she was getting to the point where she was starting to look unhealthy.
Right.
Like she was going to the gym an unhealthy amount.
I see.
It's balance in all things.
It is.
And it's hard. Life is hard.
Like the gal that had the writing down, she would go.
We're not as.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Like she would get so stressed out and scared when we couldn't write things down, even though on the surface it wasn't internally bad. It was also difficult because she was in such a bad mental space. When she couldn't write that, it was making it hard to live. I see. Yeah, so it just like it's something that seems so small like on the outside, but to her it was a big deal. But it was hurting her. Anyway, so sorry about that, Senecan. What were you saying?
Oh, I don't think that we are, like, just in general, people are not as easy on themselves as they should be. Like, we're more likely to forgive other people than we are ourselves. Like, and to acknowledge that life is hard for other people than we are to think like, damn, life is no joke, even for ourselves.
I think that's a really good point. This is how did I put this? I don't know. I think this was pretty helpful for me anyway. I hope other people learn from this. But I definitely feel like it's good to like help us get that understanding. Kiwi said something I learned.
I mean, I'm always open. Oh, continue.
No, go ahead. I'll read after.
I was gonna say I'm always open to like answer any questions that people have about like mental health in general, like substance abuse, depression, anxiety. I'm not necessarily the person that is always down to be like the shoulder to cry on, like to vent to, but if people have any questions about like specific things or like about autism, developmental disorders, I am generally open to talking about it. I'm very passionate about it. And if I don't know a lot about it, I'm very good at research, and I like to do research.
That's good. I think
I'm
that's
not necessarily the person. Yeah, I'm not necessarily the person to vent to though. Just that's one of my own like boundaries for my mental health.
people can't vent to you, or you don't.
It's not necessarily that they can't. Just they should ask.
Okay.
Beforehand, which I mean you should with anyone.
Absolutely.
It depends on where I'm at. Like I'm just getting out of like what I call my sad boy season. Like spring is just a difficult time for me because of my own trauma. And so just asking first, and that's generally a good idea for anyone that you're wanting to vent to.
I agree. It's definitely a good practice. You said something I learned in trauma treatment that I think is applicable here is that every day is going to be a different level of your best. And just because your ability to function isn't as good today as it was yesterday doesn't mean you did bad. It just means your best is different. I really like that. That's actually something I mean, it's to a much lesser watered down degree, but something I do is like when I'm focusing on like being healthy for like weight loss reasons. That's what I try to tell myself. To that degree where it's not like, oh, I fucked up today, I did a really bad job. It was just more like, hey, today I did the best I could. Why don't I make sure my best tomorrow is better than my best today?
Yeah, our baselines are always different, and baselines is definitely something I learned a lot about with Teru because her mood disorder has never been like officially diagnosed because she hasn't gone through any kind of diagnosis stuff since she was a kid, but she is most likely bipolar.
I see.
And bipolar baselines can shift drastically. So like normally her baseline is a little low, so she normally is here. So when she goes through a depressive phase, she sinks down here. Whereas if your baseline is like, this is a normal baseline, and you go through a depressive phase and you're here, if your baseline is here, it's going to take you down to here, which is like much worse, right?
Right.
And if your baseline is low and you have a manic phase, you might just be functioning like a normal person.
Right.
Baselines when it comes to bipolar disorder are very interesting. It's one of my favorite things, but like to like research and discuss.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like even as like neurotypical people, I can't ever do
the quotes. I can't.
You can't do it at all.
No, I'm super crippled because of VR, or I'm not in VR.
Like neurotypical. Like we all have our own baselines. Like with my sad boy season, like I'm like, oh, I haven't showered in 3 days, but my laundry's done. Like, what is it? Anything worth doing? So like basically like even it's better to half-ass something than to not do it at all.
Yeah.
So like if I can't force myself to get into the shower, like I can brush my hair. Or I can put on clean clothes.
That's like what Griff said is very good too. Someone once told me that the goal isn't to be the best in the world, because there's always someone better, stronger, faster. Yeah. But if you can be the better than the person you were yesterday, then you're winning. I think that goes along with like what you're saying too. Like as long as you're trying your best, and you're not comparing yourself, because I think that's like problem like societally right now is it's so easy to compare yourself to other people, and that's why like some apps like TikTok and Facebook are actually kind of hazardous. It's because you have these people who like overinflate like what amazing quote unquote perfect lives they live, and it's super hard not to compare yourselves to that. Like that's
social media can be super detrimental when it comes to that.
It can be. That's why I think what Griff says is perfect.
Yeah, there's actually been some studies that social media, the ways that it can be beneficial for mental health is actually if it gets you involved in something.
Right.
And so that's part of the reason why I love our Discords that we have and like Twitch, because it definitely has gotten me like involved in a community and like doing something, not just mindless scrolling.
Right, absolutely. Like
And that
communicating
is
with
another
people.
reason why I do not use TikTok. I can't do TikTok.
Of course. Sit in the shower
But
instead of
course,
stand
that's a
stretch.
personal preference.
Right. Kiwi said sit in the shower instead of just stand and stretch for 10 seconds. Instead of doing full yoga routine, just do what you can, and that's great. That's how I always start off whenever I begin. Is it's just small, just because I've definitely been on the end where I try to do too many things at once. Like for weight loss, I know we're talking about mental health, and I keep bringing it back to weight loss, but that's where you can tell like
But it's something you can relate it to, and mental health has everything to do with weight loss.
Yeah, that
don't even stress it.
That's a good point. But like I've absolutely done that where I have tried to just like 100% go full gung ho at it, like go big or go home, eating like every single like counting every single calorie, being as healthy as I possibly can, working out every single day. And the hard part with that is like if you try to take those huge strides right at the start, like it's so easy for you to give up because that seems hard.
Hardcore.
Yeah, but if you take those little baby steps, do little things like, okay, maybe change this, like don't eat this particular food on this day that you normally do. Just do little things and make changes. Nable's right, we love Santa Coon here.
And that's the same thing with so many things. Aw. So many things that like you're with changes like baby steps. So like with quitting smoking, they recommend, okay, first put out like one place where you're gonna stop smoking. So like say your smoking is like you smoke in your house, you are not allowed to smoke in your house anymore. You are not allowed to smoke on your drive to and from work anymore. Like baby steps, you're slowly cutting it out of your life. And then with eating, like I have an example. The boy and I pack lunches for work, and we do a sandwich, a carb snack, and then oh my gosh,
protein.
We have like a little. Well, our sandwich has like our main protein.
Oh, good.
But like one of those mini like Slim Jims, like the little mini meat sticks. So we have those. And then we have fruit snacks, and then we would have like a fruit cup. So like mandarin oranges or like the diced peaches.
Right.
And so like our first step was like switching from a fruit cup to like a real fruit. So we'll usually get apples or oranges or like a banana. So we're like increasing the quality of the fruit in our lunches. And we haven't made any changes recently, but I know once I start summer program, my lunches are going to completely change because I have to have the high quality nutrition. Like my lunches will include more protein, spinach, probably like a cheese stick or something, like Greek yogurt, just things that are like gonna keep me fueled better throughout the day because I'm running around with kids all day.
That's important.
And like on swim days, it's super important to have like, and like I'm not a breakfast person, I don't eat breakfast, so I buy like those protein drinks for the morning to drink before I go to work or on my way to work, because if I don't, I'm dead before lunch.
Right.
Cannot function.
I get that. Yeah, that's important.
And those kids like to eat lunch early too.
Yeah, you got to be careful with what food you put in you when you're doing stuff like that.
At like 11:30.
Oh, that is pretty early.
It's definitely it's super important to like make sure that it's quality food that I'm putting in my body when I'm doing summer program.
I think in the words
I'm also excited for summer program because I'll lose weight too.
Yeah.
Because my lunches will be really good and I'll be running around everywhere.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good gig in that sense. I mean, it sounds like you're ready, like you enjoyed it before, you're trying to get back into it, and there are, those health benefits to it as well. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, and I got certified to like a little yoga certification.
Right.
Through, I don't remember the name of the program, but and it's specifically for like people with disabilities and also trauma-based yoga,
Oh,
which is really cool. And I got to use it while I was working there before, but I'm excited to use it during summer program, like incorporate some yoga into the stuff that we'll be doing. And like we get to swim like at least once a week, try to aim for twice a week.
oh wow. Swimming is so good for you.
Yeah.
Swimming is the only time I worked out hard enough that I actually threw up after.
That's probably not good for you.
No, I didn't do it again after that. Not for a while, anyway. I didn't realize because
I
to
love swimming.
to digress, I'm not like a big swimmer. I'm not a big fan of water and like getting wet in general. But like one of my buddies was just like, yeah, like swimming is some of the best cardio because it also like engages your core. So I was like, nice. How much should I do? And he was like, start with 2 laps. I was like, how much do you do? He was like, I do 20 laps a day. And I was like, wow, I could probably try 10. Big mistake. I threw up. 10 was too much for me. I should have listened to him and done 2. So what now?
Swimming can also be really great because what is Kiwi what nowing?
I don't know. I think it was when you were talking about the summer yoga program. That's when I remember seeing it pop up. Oh, the trauma yoga.
Yeah, we so basically the trauma portion is very similar to like what we learned for just like the yoga for like kids with disabilities, but it's basically giving people the choices for like, okay, we're going to do this next, and like emphasizing like if you don't want to do this position, you can sit quietly on your mat, you can do a position that you would rather do. There was also stuffed animals. She had like a basket of stuffed animals, so like each kid like could have their own stuffed animal to like
cute.
do the yoga with.
Right.
And then it was like your participants are choosing like, okay, how long should we hold this pose for? Like how many deep breaths should we do this pose for? And so it's all about like giving back that choice.
Right.
Which is a huge thing with trauma. Because trauma just makes you feel like you have no control over anything whatsoever.
That's a good point. Griff says, from my personal experience, in order to change bad habits for good ones, you have to give yourself incentive. Basically, reward yourself for small successes, since we're already our own worst critic. Don't judge when you don't maintain it perfectly, but over-reward yourself when you have success. Sort of like rewarding your inner child. That is actually that's a really good point too. Because that's one thing. As long as the rewards aren't detrimental, like I'm gonna bring it back to health, like weight loss, but like if you're, as long as your reward, like
that was my first thought.
As long as like, oh yeah, I did a good job working out today.
I'm gonna eat a donut of ice cream.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Griff. As long as like your rewards aren't detrimental to what you're working towards, you're 100% correct. I think. Yeah. And that also ties back to like something that Kiwi said earlier when she was mentioning, like when you're trying to be your best self, you don't have bad days. You just have days where your best maybe wasn't as good as you wanted it to be. That actually is something that people teach you, like with a lot of weight loss stuff in general, is there's no such thing as a cheat day. You have treat days. So instead of looking at like, oh, this is the day when I'm allowed to be bad, you have, this is the day where I'm allowed to reward and indulge myself. But as long as you're not overdoing it, right? Like as long as you're not ruining the work you've done, you are treating yourself.
I've also
giving yourself that reward.
I've also come to the point with like, as far as like food stuff goes, because in the past, like I have had like a super unhealthy relationship with food.
Right.
Like I've had points in my life where I was like starving myself, and points in my life where I was binge eating like crazy. And I feel like I'm more at balance now, and so ready to like make some like, you know, baby step changes and start moving forward. But
right.
One thing is definitely, crap, I forgot where I was going. Oh, like if I have cravings, like I don't fight them.
Right.
So like if I'm craving Oreos, I'll just go get like one of those little like snack size things from like the convenience store that has like 5 Oreos in it, and I'll like satisfy my craving.
That's
because
good.
the longer I hold off on it, the more likely I am to eat like half a tray of
Right.
Oreos.
I think that's
from
something
from withholding it from myself.
that is something someone did tell me a long time ago. Is I asked them when I was first getting into like being healthy and like trying to eat right. I was just like, what are some foods you like to avoid? And he this advice he told me, and I'll never forget it. He said, I actually don't limit myself. I don't ever tell myself I can't eat this. I just maybe tell myself how much of it I can eat. How much of it would be a good idea to eat now. I love pizza. I love pizza a lot. It's probably my favorite food. But once you consider that the average slice of pizza has 400 to 500 calories, and that's how many like calories you burn when you go to the gym. Like a day at the gym that's being generous, 400 to 500 calories. Once you consider like, wow, this one slice
like
of pizza,
working out hard.
yeah, this one slice of pizza basically cancels out an entire workout. How worth it is that pizza? I'm not going to tell myself I can't have it, but maybe I'll consider why not a healthier option. And Kiwi also to say not even that. Don't look at it as this isn't where I want to be. Thinking of it more as this is data. It's a different point. Okay, that's a really good distinction to make because it's not.
Like I was saying earlier, like your baseline was just different that day.
Exactly. Like this is my best for today. It's not that it wasn't good. Not that my best isn't where I wanted it to be. It's just like this is where I'm at. Because that's important. Like no one's ever like perfect indefinitely. No one ever is maintaining 100% all the time. They have different levels, but like maybe your 100% is just a bit different the next day. I like that. Very positive group we have here tonight.
Yeah, I really like that this has turned into like a mental health stream in general. Which, because like mental health is my shit. It is hardcore my shit. That is why I'm a psych major. Like, I could talk about it all day.
It's good. It's very interesting.
I'm gonna take a drink though.
Good idea. I'm gonna do that too because
it's time for a sip.
I haven't taken a swig all stream. Oh, I saw that right as I was coming back. Exactly, just viewed objectively, it's so unhealthy to say, I have to be better day after day. We aren't robots, we need rest.
Yes.
I think that helps make the process easier too. And it's okay not to improve every day. That's actually something that I had to come to the realization with for streaming too. Is it's so easy to get caught up with like streaming and like worry about the numbers. But once you start streaming for the right reason, and I think I finally found the right reason to stream, it's made me happier while I'm streaming. But there was a time where I was like, I have to improve, I have to do better, like I have to do more on my stream, I have to engage more, I have to get more viewers, I have to do this. And that's why I kept taking breaks from streaming. Once I had gotten rid of that, and I just learned like, hey, you know what? Every day, stream, have fun, and just do your best while having the most fun you can, then streaming is going to come more naturally. And I feel that. I feel like I have been enjoying my streams, like regardless of what the numbers look like. I feel like I've been having fun doing it.
Oh, it doesn't work if I just do this and move this hand. I have to have my other controller in my hand.
Oh, that's silly. Absolutely, it drives me nuts when people come in with the wrong reason for streaming. You could spot them from a mile away. If you go into streaming saying, I need X amount of numbers, you're going to last like a month max. Yes, that is like why I have taken breaks from streaming before, is because I unfortunately had that wrong mindset. It's so easy because like everything gives you the numbers. That's one thing I do is I turn off my viewers. I have no idea how many people are watching my streams. I'll check the analytics after to like
That's
gauge.
smart.
But yeah, I have no idea how many people are watching my streams, and I do not care. I come to my streams because I have fun, I enjoy it, and I like have something that I'd like to work towards. And if people want to join me in doing that, then absolutely, that's fantastic. But if not, that's great. I'm still having fun anyway. I was going to play video games anyway. I might as well just give people the opportunity to play video games with me. Having fun over there, Santa-kun?
Yes. But yeah, I agree. Like, definitely, I think your streams have been very high quality.
Thank you. It's
last like go around from like taking a break and coming back.
yeah, it's literally just that like that mood shift. Like I don't care where I end
And,
up
like,
streaming.
I think because you're less concerned about those things, like the substance is able to improve because you're not stressing about other stuff.
Exactly. Like I'm focusing more on how can this be fun for me, and also how can this be fun for anyone who would like to join. The only other thing I am doing, honestly, that like is putting a bit more stress is I am focusing more on like the other aspects of it. So like the YouTube videos, the TikToks. That's a little stressful, but that's rewarding. Like even though like my YouTube and my TikTok
and they're
video,
definitely adding to the quality.
yeah, absolutely.
They're not just, like, there.
Yeah, and it's like
and
even
your YouTube videos have even been getting like more interaction and stuff. Like I've really enjoyed them.
yeah, thank you. That's
and
the important part.
Use YouTube.
that's the part I've noticed too. Is like I'm not really doing anything different. I'm just getting better. I feel. I obviously like still have a lot to learn when it comes to like making the YouTube videos and the TikToks, but like I just like doing it. I actually enjoy video editing, which is weird. It's not something I ever thought I'd say. And people can tell when you're streaming too, why you're streaming, and when you're having fun, your chat will have fun. That's true. That's a good point. I've sadly seen it with some of my friends too, because when I don't know if you guys remember, but when I very first started the Discord, it was supposed to be a community of streamers, community for streamers by streamers. So I did encourage like a lot of people to repeat whatever I said. Okay, yeah, I will. Let me know when you're back from the ads if you can even hear this. But I would see a lot of my friends who I tried to help like get into streaming. They would do that. There was like this sense of entitlement where it's just like they would end their stream because they only had 2 people watching. Welcome back.
Yeah, but like those 2 people still matter.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's one thing, and that's actually something that I want to thank you specifically for, Sanakun, because I like when I started streaming again, Sanakun has been to pretty much every stream, and there would be streams where it was literally just me and Sanakun, and I thought about that. This was like maybe a week ago. I was just like, you know what? I would rather have one person who enjoys hanging out with me, like one person viewing as a friend, than I would have 10 people that I don't know that may come and go. But I realized like, I think those are like some of the most important interactions to have. It's not that's why I don't care about the numbers anymore. Is I want to enjoy my time with people. And it goes
back to like that sense of community.
Absolutely. Hell, do you know how long you streamed to no one? You have to be okay with that. But yes, absolutely. That's why when those people got upset, I was just kind of like, you can't like it's not up to them to make you entertaining. You have to be entertaining. That's up to you.
Yes.
It's quality over quantity. Yes. Trying to think of what? Sorry.
If Kiwi actually missed anything from the ad break. I don't think really like it was just that continuation into like we have fun. And
yeah.
Like, even if there's 2 streamers.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
2 viewers.
That's all it was. So you got that part. And I legit don't care because I was streaming for myself to finish a game. Yes. That's the big reason I picked it up again this time around is I realized like I was getting off work and I was playing video games, and I just thought to myself, it's just like, you know, why don't we stream differently? Why don't we play video games and see if other people want to join us? That's all I'm doing. I'm just doing the exact same things I was doing before when I got off work to unwind. I'm just expanding the people that I'm like doing the things with. That sounded weird, but you get it.
It didn't sound weird.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Woo! I'm having one of those like moments, one of those nights where I just say stuff and I hope it sounds good, and then after it's done, I'm like, I don't even remember what I said, so I hope it was okay. It's just one of those nights. You can ask Sanakun. Sometimes.
Fish has been staring at me this whole time.
This fish, I know he's great. I haven't named him. His name for now.
It's a good name.
Yeah. hospital.
I
Yeah.
feel like he could be like a Frederico.
Frederico. He could be Frederico.
Yeah.
But I feel like now is like a pretty good time to end this. I do like the segue that we went from autism and then just segueing into mental health and mental wellness in general. Because I feel like...
And they really go hand in hand.
They do, exactly.
A lot of people on the spectrum have comorbidities and like just... Yeah. And even people who are... Can I do it? Can I do it? Oh, I'm getting better. No.
Nice. She's beginning to learn.
People who are
Neurotypical. There you go.
Even people who are considered neurotypical have their own mental health issues. Like, I would be considered neurotypical, but like I am a stressy, depressy, anxious mess sometimes. So
Yeah.
everyone has their own shit.
I agree. Everyone's got stuff they're going through. That's why I think these types of conversations just benefit everyone.
Yeah, I love mental health streams. I've seen like Fish Puddin', the one we rated the other day. She does them sometimes.
Oh,
Akai
good.
does them sometimes.
Yeah, I know Akai is big on those. Akai is really big on like mental health in
Yeah.
general and mental wellness.
I think that's her background school-wise as well, isn't it?
I don't know if I'm being honest. I
feel
actually...
like it might be.
It sounds like it. I know I can't say who because yeah, like there's for doxing reasons and like information wanting to be hidden.
Yeah.
But I do know someone that actually knows her pretty well, so I could ask them and see because I'm curious. Fish Pudding is.
I think she was streaming earlier. I don't know if she still is.
She still is. I actually did pull up the rating, and it's between her and Black Belt. It looks like he's on. I haven't. Yeah, I might because I rated Akai Fox yesterday. I think we'll raid the Black Belt Barber today. I think she said she's a psych or sociology. Okay.
Yeah, that would make sense. I know Akai Fox tends to talk. Can I help you? What? Get out of here.
Who do you guys think?
Okay, fine. I will, but you gotta give me a second.
Everyone in chat,
I'll
who do you
probably
think?
pop over to Akai Fox's stream anyway.
Okay.
But yeah.
What do you guys think in chat?
I think
Akai Fox or Black Belt?
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Either way, you gotta crash. Yeah, it is past your bedtime, Kiwi, so that is understandable. I think we'll go with Black Belt because I rated Kiwi. Kiwi rated me today. I rated Akai Fox yesterday, so I think it's fair if we raid Black Belt today. Tell it when you do go to Akai. Tell her I said hi. Also,
I will.
Thank you.
I know you don't really keep an eye on it like during stream, but well, now it's saying 7, but it was saying that you had 9 viewers.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty good.
That is. I don't think I've had that many for a while. I will only be able to see like the peak at the end of it. That's what it shows me. So that's good.
Yeah.
The conversation was just so great, you had to say, and we appreciate that. Though I'm sorry for keeping you up so late. That was good. I think Sanakun brought a lot of really good points to this too. So thank you. We'll have to do this again for a different subject.
Another mental health topic for another one.
Perfect. I think
maybe I'll do linguistic anthropology because that's it sounds boring, but it's so interesting.
I don't even know where to begin with that.
And it does tie into some psychology.
Good. You had 6 today in an art stream, which was weirdly high for art. Ah, okay, wow. That's a lot.
Everyone's just showing up.
Yeah. That is, I did notice, like, I've been to some of your art streams, and yeah, I did notice that they, unfortunately, people don't like to watch it as much, which I think is silly, because those are some of my favorites. Like, those are the easiest ones for me to tune into. I know it's boring with Asmus. I'm working on switching. Give me a second. My bee's getting upset at me. Sorry, guys. Don't usually raid anyone on art stream days because they're slow. I do have like a number because like I do have to see the number like when I raid. If I go to my raid channel at the end of the stream and it's like 2, I'm like I probably won't. People don't want to be like, wow, thanks for the 2 people raid, much appreciated. But again, goes back to what we were talking about. Yeah.
If I start streaming, you are more than welcome to raid me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, especially if you're later than me. Oh, aren't you getting a later schedule though? Or an earlier schedule, a more normal one?
I'm gonna be on a day schedule.
Yeah, that might be hard. You do art streams because you like them? Yeah, exactly. Like, who cares how many views you have?
I probably won't be able to watch streams as much unless it's on the weekend.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I mean,
I can still like set my Twitch open just to like your chat, and then when you pop on, it'll be on there.
You don't have to do that. Like, I appreciate it. Yeah, you definitely don't have to. I'm not. It's just only if you want to be here. That's my thing. Is like if you want to be here, great.
I do want to be here. I'll probably just be sleeping.
I wish I could get an earlier schedule.
So
that's the big thing, but I unfortunately.
I wish I could do summer program and also stay up all night.
Can't have your cake and eat it too. I was
looking at it and like, if I went to sleep like right after I got off work and then woke up at like 3 in the morning to go get the boy from work, because I'll be getting off work at like 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, Kiwi, you got voluntold into a new job? Yikes! I heard that can happen at some of those places of work.
Kiwi got what?
Kiwi got voluntold into a new job. She might get punted to an earlier too. Hey, maybe there you go. Then Kiwi can raid Sanakun.
Yeah.
You both go.
Well, I was thinking like if I do start streaming, maybe I can start doing like mental health podcasts, and you guys can come guest.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Ask questions and stuff.
I think that would be a fun topic. And also important.
Yeah, I really like the VRC setup for like doing a podcast.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It takes a lot of stress off of stuff.
Oh, for sure. That's the whole reason.
We were talking yesterday about how we were talking yesterday about like the quarantine Zoom calls and stuff.
Oh yeah. I can go on for days about mental health, especially abnormal psych. Yeah, I like to hypothesize around it.
Abnormal psych.
Yeah,
abnormal psych is my shit.
Very interested in learning more about it. Let's go ahead and raid the old black belt barber. So thank you guys once again for showing up, and thank you, Sanakun, for joining. I think what I'll do is I will post another resume, whatever we'll call it, for the next podcast. So that'll be open. So if you guys want, if you're in my Discord, just look for that in the polls and voting. I think it's where I'll put that. Yeah, that's what I did for the last one. It's like an application for it. The last few, so.
Yeah, but you said resume. That's
why
I was laughing and said application.
That too. Resume, application. I'm wrong. But
I'm
just
ready to have this headset off my eyeballs.
Yes, I'll post that so you guys can check it out. But I'll go ahead and end this and send us all over to the Black Belt Barber. So I love each and every one of you. Hope you make better choices than me, and have a good rest of your night.